Welcome back to my channel. Today, we explore the value of specific coins. The top 8 Washington silver quarter-dollar coins value in today's market. So let's get started. First up, the 1967 Washington quarter was minted during a time when the U.S. Mint temporarily removed mint marks from coins to discourage hoarding. So, all quarters from this year were produced without a mint mark. That means it doesn't necessarily indicate rarity by itself. Another key point is that quarters from 1965 to 1970 were no longer made of silver. Instead, they were struck in a copper nickel-clad composition. So the 1967 quarter, despite what many assume, does not contain silver. However, collectors and sellers sometimes talk about a dot variety or certain damage patterns that appear near the date or other parts of the coin. It's important to know that most of these are not recognized as official varieties by major grading services. In most cases, these dot patterns are simply the result of post-mint damage or die deterioration, which unfortunately do not add value. Now, let's talk about the value. A standard 1967 Washington quarter in circulated condition is generally worth its face value 25 cents. In average circulated condition, it doesn't command any premium. Even in better shape, such as extremely fine condition, the value may only rise slightly to around 30 to 50 cents. In uncirculated or mint state condition, prices can go higher. A 1967 quarter graded Ms. 65 by a reputable grading service might fetch between $5 and $15. The highest auction prices are usually reserved for coins graded Ms. 67 or better, which are quite rare. One such example has sold for over $150 at auction, but for a 1967 quarter in damaged condition, especially one with environmental wear, scratches, or unusual marks like the so-called dot, the value usually goes down. These coins typically trade below face value when sold in bulk, and most dealers will not buy them individually. To summarize, a 1967 Washington quarter without a mint mark in damaged or dot condition generally holds no numismatic premium, unless it is in pristine mint state condition or part of a certified error variety. Its market value today is about 25 cents. If you think you have an unusual variety or error coin, it's always a good idea to have it evaluated by a professional grading service. But for most 1967 quarters, the historical value is more about the story of the coin than its price in the market. Next up, the 1998 Washington quarter is a familiar piece to most collectors and casual coin enthusiasts. With the iconic profile of George Washington on the obverse and the classic eagle reverse design, this coin marked the end of an era before. The 50-state quarters program began in 1999. But among the millions produced that year, there are a few specific versions that hold more value, especially to collectors today. Let's talk about the 1998 Washington quarter that was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P Mint mark. Most of these quarters were struck in a copper nickel-clad composition for general circulation. However, a small number were produced in 90% silver for special collector sets known as proof sets. It's important to note that while the Philadelphia Mint produced circulation strikes, the silver proofs were actually struck at the San Francisco Mint with an S Mint mark. That means a genuine silver quarter from 1998 will never have a P Mint mark. Still, even among standard circulation strikes, collectors often seek out coins in higher grades, especially those with strong detail and minimal wear. An extra fine, or XF, grade Washington quarter from 1998 with the P Mint mark will show light wear on the highest points of the design, but most of the detail remains sharp. In terms of value, a 1998 P Washington quarter in extra fine condition is still relatively common. Because millions were minted, their market price is primarily driven by condition, not rarity. As of today, such a coin typically sells for around 50 cents to $1.25. Depending on the exact quality and whether it's part of a bulk lot or sold individually. Dealers and collectors will usually only pay a premium for uncirculated or near perfect examples, especially those graded by professional services. So, While a 1998p quarter in extra fine condition may not be worth a fortune, it still holds interest as a transition piece from the classic eagle reverse to the state quarter designs that followed. It's a great coin to keep in a beginner's collection, and a reminder that value in numismatics isn't always about the price tag, it's often about history, design, and context. Next up, the 1971D Washington Quarter. At first glance, this may look like just another piece of pocket change. But under the right conditions, and with the right features, even a circulated or damaged example can have value beyond its face. To start, it's important to understand that the 1971D Washington Quarter was not originally made of silver. By 1971, the U.S. Mint had already transitioned to using a copper-nickel-clad composition for quarters. That change took place in 1965. So, standard 1971D quarters are made of a copper core with a layer of nickel on each side, no silver content at all. However, there have been a few rare cases where transitional errors occurred. These are instances when a blank silver planchet, left over from a previous minting year, was accidentally used to strike a newer coin. If a 1971D quarter was mistakenly struck on a 90% silver planchet, it would be considered a mint error and highly collectible. That said, these cases are extremely rare and must be authenticated by a professional coin grading service. Now, let's address the more common scenario: owning a regular 1971D Washington Quarter in damaged condition. In numismatics, condition plays a huge role in a coin's value. Coins in uncirculated or mint state grades are worth significantly more than those that show signs of heavy wear, scratches, dents, or corrosion. For a damaged 1971D quarter, especially one with noticeable issues like scratches, discoloration, or environmental damage, the value typically stays close to face value. In most cases, it remains a 25-cent coin unless there's a verified mint error involved. If, however, you suspect your coin has a unique flaw or shows signs of being struck on a silver planchet, it's worth checking its weight. A standard copper-nickel quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. A silver planchet will weigh closer to 6.25 grams. That small difference could signal something important. Assuming it is a regular clad quarter and it is damaged, today's market would likely value the coin at no more than its face value, 25 cents. Even among collectors, unless there's something particularly unusual about the damage, it wouldn't attract much attention. However, if the coin is verified to be a mint error or struck on a silver planchet, its value could jump significantly. Depending on rarity and condition, even in a damaged state, it might be worth anywhere from $50 to several $100s. Again, this depends entirely on proper authentication from a trusted third-party grading service like PCGs or ENGC.so. In summary, most 1971D Washington quarters, especially in damaged condition, are worth only their face value. But with potential errors or unusual features, it's always worth investigating further. Just remember, condition is key and confirmation by a grading expert is essential. Next up, the 1990 Washington Quarter is a common coin in circulation, but many collectors are curious about specific details that can make one example more valuable than another. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the 1990 quarter with the D mint mark struck in Denver and talk about its value in extra fine condition in today's collector market. First, it's important to clarify that standard 1990D Washington quarters were made primarily for circulation and are composed of copper and nickel, not silver. The United States Mint stopped producing circulating silver quarters after 1964. However, some people mistakenly believe that all older-looking quarters are silver. In reality, a genuine 1990D silver quarter would only exist as part of a special set or as an error, and no regular silver version of the 1990D was ever released to the public. Now, focusing on the standard copper-nickel 1990D quarter in extra fine condition, in numismatics, extra fine refers to a circulated coin with light wear on the highest points of the design, but with all major details clearly visible. This grade is just below about uncirculated and is often of interest to casual collectors because the 1990D quarter was produced in large numbers, over 927 million, were struck. Its value in most circulated conditions remains close to face value. In extra fine condition, it might be worth slightly more to a collector, especially if it has strong eye appeal, minimal nicks, and attractive toning. However, the difference in value is not dramatic. As of today, a 1990D quarter in extra fine condition typically sells for around 25 to 50 cents in the secondary market. Dealers may offer slightly less when buying, and prices can vary depending on the buyer's interest. Online auctions or coin shows may bring a little more if the coin stands out in quality or is part of a larger collection. For those looking to invest in more valuable quarters, the focus should shift to rare dates, low mintages, or error coins. The 1990D does not fall into any of those categories unless it has a striking error, such as an off-center strike or a double die, which would need to be verified by a professional grading service. To summarize, a standard 1990D Washington quarter in extra fine condition holds a small premium above face value, mainly for beginner collectors. While it's not a highly valuable coin on its own, it's still a nice example of modern U.S. coinage and can be a part of a broader collection. Next up, the 1983 Washington quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the D Mint mark. This coin is part of the regular clad composition series, meaning it's not made of silver. It consists of copper and nickel layers, unlike earlier quarters minted before 1965, which contained 90% silver. The year 1983 is of interest to collectors, mainly because no official mint sets were released to the public that year. This means that collectors must rely on circulation coins to complete their sets, making well-preserved 1983 quarters harder to find in high grades. However, when it comes to circulated or worn examples, values tend to remain low. In worn condition, typically considered to be anything graded below very fine, 1983D Washington quarters generally trade for face value. That's 25 cents. However, there are a few things that might slightly increase that number. If your coin has strong eye appeal, is better preserved than most in circulation, or shows a unique die variety or error, such as a double die or misstrike, it could be worth more. Minor errors might push the price to around $1 or $2. Major errors, especially those that are dramatic or rare, can sometimes fetch much higher prices, even exceeding $50 depending on collector interest and condition. It's important to note that there's often confusion about these coins being silver. Again, the 1983D quarter is not a silver coin. Only quarters dated 1964 and earlier were struck in 90% silver for general circulation. So, unless your 1983 quarter was specially struck as part of a later collector set, or has an unusual planchet error, it does not contain any silver content. In the current coin market, a standard 1983D Washington quarter in worn condition is worth only its face value, 25 cents. If it's in uncirculated condition, that might go up to $1 or $2. But for worn examples, especially those with average wear from circulation, don't expect much beyond the coin's basic monetary value unless it carries an unusual error. Next up, the 1970D Washington quarter is a coin that often sparks curiosity, especially among casual collectors. But before diving into its value, it's important to clear up a common misconception. Most Washington quarters minted in 1970, including those with a D Mint mark indicating the Denver Mint, were not made of silver. In fact, regular 1970 quarters are composed of a copper nickel clad, not the 90% silver found in earlier years. The last regular issue silver quarters for circulation were made in 1964. However, when people refer to a 1970D silver quarter, they may be talking about a rare and unusual error coin. Some examples of the 1970 quarter were struck on silver planchets, or coin blanks, that were left over from earlier coinage, often Canadian silver coins. These rare errors are not standard U.S. Mint issues, but rather accidental strikes. 1. Such coins sold for over $35,000 due to its rarity and historical intrigue. But these are extremely limited and almost never found in circulation. If you have a 1970D quarter and it looks damaged or worn, its value will depend heavily on its actual composition and condition. If it's the standard copper nickel-clad variety, even in circulated condition, it typically holds just face value 25 cents. In heavily damaged condition, it may not be worth anything to collectors, unless there is some verified mint error or unique feature. To know if your quarter is something truly special, you'd need to weigh it. A standard 1970D clad quarter should weigh around 5.67 grams. A silver quarter, on the other hand, would weigh closer to 6.25 grams. If your coin is heavier than normal and has other unique characteristics, such as an unusual surface or minting flaws, it may be worth having it authenticated and graded by a professional coin grading service. In the current market, a regular 1970D quarter in damaged or poor condition is worth only its face value. Even in uncirculated condition, might be worth just a couple of dollars. But if you believe your coin might be one of those rare error strikes on a silver planchet, expert evaluation is essential. Only verified mint errors or exceptionally rare conditions will carry significant value, sometimes reaching thousands of dollars at auction. In short, while most 1970D quarters in damaged condition won't fetch more than a few cents over face value, the rare exceptions do exist. Knowing the difference comes down to careful inspection, weighing the coin, and, if necessary, seeking expert advice. Always be cautious of online claims and do your research before assuming you've found a rare treasure. Next up, the 1980D Washington quarter and whether it holds any value in today's collector market. First, a quick background. The D Mint mark on this coin stands for the Denver Mint, which produced over 635 million quarters in 1980. Because of that high mintage, these coins are still very common in circulation today. They're made of a copper nickel-clad composition, not silver. So if you have one, especially one that's been used and circulated normally, it's not going to be a rare find. Now, let's talk about value. In most cases, a 1980D quarter in average circulated condition is still only worth its face value 25 cents. These coins are durable and were made for everyday use. Unless there's something unusual about yours, like a mint error or exceptionally high-grade condition, it's not considered a rare collectible. However, condition makes a difference. Coins that have been well preserved, meaning no major scratches, dings, or wear, and have full detail can be worth more to collectors. These are known as uncirculated or mint state coins. If your 1980D quarter has never been used and looks nearly perfect, it might be worth grading. According to current market trends, a 1980D quarter graded in Ms. 65 condition, that's a high mint state grade, can sell for around $10 to $15. In Ms. 66, which is even better, you might see prices between $25 and $40. Very few have been graded Ms. 67 or higher, and those can reach $100 or more, but those are rare and must be verified by a reputable grading service. As for errors, things like off-center strikes, double dies, or planchet mistakes, those can significantly raise a coin's value. But those errors are not typical and need expert authentication. So, if you're holding a 1980D Washington quarter that's been in circulation and shows signs of wear, its value is likely 25 cents. If it's in pristine condition or has a known mint error, then it may be worth getting it checked out because it could be worth much more. In summary, while the 1980D quarter isn't rare or silver, it can still be a fun piece to examine, especially if it's in mint condition or has a unique flaw. Keep an eye on your change, you never know what you'll find. Next up, the 1966 Washington quarter, specifically one with a D Mint mark. Now, let's clear something up right away. Officially, no 1966 Washington quarters were struck with a mint mark. That year, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks from coins to discourage collectors from hoarding coins based on their mint of origin. So if you come across a 1966 quarter that appears to have a D Mint mark, It is either a post-mint alteration or a damaged coin that resembles a mint mark. It is not an authentic Denver minted coin. This can be disappointing for some who believe they've found a rare treasure. But even without a mint mark, the 1966 Washington quarter can hold some collector value under certain conditions. During 1966, quarters were made from a clad composition of copper and nickel, not silver. This change occurred starting in 1965, when the U.S. Mint removed silver from quarters and dimes due to rising metal costs. So, despite occasional online listings claiming otherwise, the standard 1966 quarter contains no silver. The base value of a circulated 1966 Washington quarter is typically just its face value 25 cents. However, collectors may pay more for coins in exceptional condition. A 1966 quarter in uncirculated or mint state condition, graded Ms. 65 or higher by a professional grading service, can be worth between $5 and $25. In rare cases, quarters graded Ms. 67 or higher have sold for $200 to $300 or more at auction. The highest known auction price for a 1966 Washington quarter reached around $3,800, but this was for a nearly flawless example graded Ms. 68 by a reputable grading agency. These top-grade coins are extremely rare and command such prices due to their scarcity and perfection, not because of a mint mark or silver content. So, what should you do if you find a 1966 quarter with what looks like a D mint mark? Have it reviewed by a professional coin expert or numismatist. But be aware that it is most likely an altered or damaged coin and does not hold significant added value for that reason alone. In summary, while the 1966 Washington quarter with a mysterious mint mark may be intriguing, its true value lies in its condition. Only the highest quality examples are worth more than face value, and there is no officially recognized version with the D mint mark. Always rely on verified sources and certified grading if you believe you've found something special. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more coin collecting content. See you in next time. Happy collecting!